Today on this episode of The Brain Surgeon's Take, we will be discussing Frog Fuel, liquid collagen protein for elite performance, with founder of Op2 Labs, entrepreneur, and former Navy SEAL, Alex Kunz. Learn how this once special operations warrior used his own experiences and training to design the ultimate nutritional supplement to help achieve peak performance. Much more on this podcast episode. Welcome back, everyone. Here's my take on Alex Kunz. The guy is a total badass and legendary war hero who is using his knowledge to produce the highest quality protein in the world. As a former Navy SEAL, Alex has been through the toughest training regimen known to man and clearly understands the importance of nutrition for peak performance and recovery. Now an entrepreneur and founder of Op2 Labs, Alex is determined to provide us with the best protein product in the world, Frog Fuel. I loved doing this interview. As a doctor and wellness fanatic, I found the science and technology behind Frog Fuel to be incredible. What we eat makes such a huge difference in how we feel and perform. I learned a tremendous amount about physiology during my discussion with Alex. We are all busy and struggle to make sure our body gets the proper nutrition. Frog Fuel addresses this dilemma with a quick, easy, and ultra-effective supplement. Brilliant, and kudos to Alex and his team. Listen up as we discuss Frog Fuel, liquid collagen protein for elite performance. Check it out. Hey, Alex, how you doing?
Hey, good, Rick. How are you?
I'm good. Listen, thanks so much for joining us. I'm very excited to talk about your company, your products. I'm a huge fan.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
For people who may not know your background, you're obviously a very accomplished Navy SEAL, and now you're an entrepreneur. First question I would ask you is, what was your impetus to start your company, Op2 Labs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the kind of concept / vision started many years ago when I was actually a Navy SEAL. So back then, we're working in austere environments under the most physically and demanding physical and mental conditions. And, as much like the medical field, it's highly competitive, and in our field, it's the same way. So, you're competing against guys that are the 1% of humanity here. So you're always looking for a competitive edge to speed up recovery, to increase mental capacity, endurance, performance. And, I was spending hundreds of dollars a month buying different types of products out there that I thought would help me. And what I realized over time was there's this, consistent, ebb and flow, so to say, of, hey, reach maximum performance potential to I get an injury and now I'm recovering from it. And so me and the co-founder, the question came up, can we create something that truly provides full body benefits, true foundational benefits, starting with your connective tissue, your joints, your bones, everything else, that would minimize injuries, speed recovery. So you're not dealing with, having to put all this effort into training and all of a sudden you're go through 6 months of training, get to your peak, and now it's 6 months of recovery just to get back to the beginning again. And so that started a long time ago. And I went into the corporate world. My co-founder was working for the agency. 9/11 happened. So I dropped out of the corporate world, went back and contracted with the agency as well for about 3 years, and effectively came to the conclusion that I don't want to do this for the rest of my life. I need to really focus on a new career because I need to learn a new skill set, which is going to take some time. So I moved back into corporate with a large energy company. My co-founder, continued to deploy for a number of years. And then it was, back in, I think, 2012 that he just gave me a call one day and said, listen, I'm kind of getting burnt out with this stuff. And, we had talked about starting a company. What do you think? And I said, sure, let's do it.
Wow. And so since then, what would you say, in summary, is the mission of Op2 Labs?
It's really to provide holistic health and wellness to the world. That's our, number one vision. We want to be able to provide best in class, or I shouldn't say best in class, but industry leading customer service, industry leading products. For us, we're not competing with products on price. That's just not our moral fortitude. we really want to provide the highest quality products out there and provide true life-changing benefits to people.
Now, I've interviewed a bunch of Navy SEALs on this podcast, and many of them, much like you, have been incredibly successful business people. What about being a Navy SEAL benefits in the transition to becoming an entrepreneur?
That's a great question. I think you're probably well aware of this, but there's kind of two, I think, general constructs of individuals in very high aptitude fields, and one is either ego or confidence. And I like to extrapolate those because I think those that continue on their journey with ego tend to not be successful, but those with a very high level of confidence do, because there's a selflessness to it. You have to accept the fact that when you transition a new career, you are not what you used to be. And you have to kind of give up that ego. You may have been at the top of your game at one point, but starting off in a new career, a new skill set, new field, you're nothing. And so for me, it was really just swallowing your pride and your ego and just saying, I'm nothing anymore. And I need to, if I want to be at the top of my game, I have to be able to adapt and learn a whole new skill set to be successful.
I mean, that's a good approach, right? You have to be confident yet humble at the same time. And I think that's a rare combination. Now, your guys' main product, what you're known for, is frog fuel. Mm-hmm. Why is it so unique?
Well, it's I'm going to go in a little bit of background here. So when we started our company, we were bootstrapped, so we self-funded everything, and a lot of that was contracting money that I had. And coincidentally, I had fairly good wealth, but I was in a relationship where my girlfriend at the time was a coke addict. And so I saved up all this money. I came back to the United States and had nothing. All the money was gone. And so I was left with about $50,000. And so we started the company literally with $100,000. Each of us put $50,000 in. And a lot of that was put into, research. But, to answer your question, part of what we did when we started the company is we started off with two brands. One was Provide Gold, one was Frog Fuel. And the reason for that is that we wanted to create a brand that was purely focused on the clinical aspects of our formulation. We knew we couldn't do that under one brand umbrella because you can't effectively target different audiences with one brand. It's not scalable from a business perspective. So we elicited the help of a number of healthcare professionals. They started the Provide Gold brand. Jeff and I started Frog Fuel. But at some point, their side of the business, the relationships broke down. The co-founders, didn't, they were basically cannibalizing the business, and we were at risk of losing our formula potentially to, debt holders and stuff like that. So it was back in 2017 that I made a move to acquire that whole side of the business, and we consolidated them. So coincidentally, Frog Fuel is the same formula that's actually used in our Pro-T Gold product, which is actually used in a number of medical applications, everything from post-surgical wound healing to burn treatment, dialysis, chemotherapy, diabetes, specifically diabetic wounds, pressure injuries for people in nursing homes. We use it for sarcopenia treatment, individuals who have Lyme disease to get proper protein intake and stuff like that. So a number of medical indications, and about 50% of our business is medical. The other 50% is really human performance. So Frog Fuel really captivates and highlights the human performance aspects of our product, which is speeding recovery and, building lean, dense muscle, and also as an injury prevention product.
Now the question I had, and I've done some research on it, is hydrolyzed collagen, which is what you guys market. Mm-hmm. Why is that the most powerful protein supplement in the world? This episode of The Brain Surgeon's Take is brought to you by Vitamin Water. Vitamin Water is the ideal way to hydrate, replete your electrolytes, and maintain wellness. I drink Vitamin Water routinely during the day in order to keep up my energy and focus. Check out vitaminwater.com for more information and use the promo code brain surgeons take for 20% off your first order?
Yeah, so we effectively ended up trademarking a term that we use as nanohydrolyzed. And so if you think of a typical protein molecule, I mean, I'm going to simplify this because we could, obviously I think you understand the science behind it, but your audience may not. So if you think of like the term hydrolyzed is a marketing term. So hydrolyzed could imply anything that is a particle that's 33,000 Daltons in size, all the way to what's typically marketed in traditional protein supplements like a hydrolyzed whey, which is 18,000 Daltons. Now, the human pore and the digestive system, specifically the stomach, can absorb a molecule that's roughly about 4,000 Daltons. And so if you're consuming a product that's hydrolyzed, 18,000 Daltons or larger, obviously the enzymes in your mouth and the digestive acids actually have to break that molecule down to the point where it can actually be absorbed in your bloodstream. Protein is largely ineffective unless you can get it down to the cellular level. And so the reason why we use the term nanohydrolyzed is because we specifically manufacture our protein down to 2,000 Daltons, which is roughly half the size that a pore in the digestive system can absorb.
And so, every time I see the frog fuel container, it says it's absorbed 100% within 15 minutes. Is that what makes it such high quality protein compared to, I'm just going to throw out there, muscle milk or these other supplements that have protein? Yours is more readily absorbable and more completely absorbed. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. It was there was a university that it's the Division of Cellular Molecular Biology in Kennesaw State University that was actually conducting a study. So they originally started these studies because I think it was a number of years ago when individuals were suing Walmart for label claims. And they kind of, at the tail end of that study, they decided to actually say, okay, well, all these protein companies out there are, making all these claims. Let's do a protein digestibility study. Coincidentally, one of the students that was working for that department was taking our product. So the professor reached out to us and said, hey, would you guys be willing to participate in the study? The reality here is that if the results don't turn out to be in your favor, we're still going to publish them. So it was a large risk because we were year 2 in business, and but yet at the same time we were confident in our product. So we participated in the study, and they tested, I think it was the top 5 protein supplements by revenue in the world against ours. We were the smallest company. And what they found is within 15 minutes, our product had completely digested. But the interesting thing about the study is the professor didn't contact us for months. He just went dark. So we were emailing, calling him, and finally we got a hold of him, and he said, listen, I really apologize for this because let me tell you the story here. He said, your product was so effective that it made me doubt our instrumentation. And I had our students recalibrating the equipment every time we studied your product because it was so effective. And he said, listen, in the study, I can only put your product completely digested in 15 minutes, but because that's what the markers were, 15, 30, 60, 90 minutes, 90 minutes being the full digestive process. He said, but in reality, I think your product probably would have, if we had markers for 2 minutes and 5 minutes, would have digested completely in a much shorter time frame.
Wow. I guess the question now is, mainly for the audience, discuss the importance of high quality protein in a healthy diet and how much protein should we be consuming?
Yeah, so I think the traditional science has taught us we take 1.5 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. But, those studies were developed back in late 70s, early 80s, right? And the PDCAP study, which was a study that was actually done on infants and in protein absorption. And that was unfortunately used as a basis for protein consumption for all humans, even adults. And the reality is the protein absorption rate at that time was very low. So because they weren't hydrolyzed particles, let alone nanohydrolyzed. And so what people knew was that your body had to break down that protein numerous times during a 90-minute digestive process. And so your body didn't break down that entire protein molecule. So you were at best only getting 15 to 20% of that protein, even though you're taking 60 grams, which is why that study was built out. Dr. Barr from UC Santa Barbara actually did a phenomenal study on collagen. And what they concluded with the collagen protein is that anything beyond 15 grams of protein, I think it was 12 grams of protein per serving, provided no measurable medicinal benefit. So your body's maximizing the effect really at 12 grams. I mean, we decided to put it at about 15 in case there was potentially protein loss. But, in professional sports, medical use, we have, I have two instances. I'll give you like a stark contrast here. We had a gal that was she had diabetes, and she was dealing with open wounds. And for 3 years of her life, every 3 to 4 days, she would have to go in a wound care facility where they deep braze her wounds and to prevent infection, and then rewrap her entire leg. I mean, it was life changing for her. She was out of money. Somehow she came upon our product, and within 90 days made a full recovery. Every wound closed up. We had on the sports side, we have a number of professional athletes that are playing not just collegiate ball or collegiate sports, but they're professional sports, football, basketball. One instance where a professional basketball player had a hole in his Achilles tendon. They told him he would have to undergo a surgical procedure, took our product. Within 4 months, that hole closed up. And not only that, but his tendon increased by 20% in density. So it actually strengthened itself. We have two male individuals that are now in professional football. When they finished their summer training camp recently, or last year, those two measured the highest in muscle density than any other player in the entire team. And it was their first year playing that professional sport, but they've been taking our products for about 6 years. So the evidence is really compelling. I mean, we created a product that we knew had certain benefits to it, but we never surmised that the benefits would go above and beyond our expectations.
The other question is it's 15 grams of protein, very little carbs, depending on which version you buy. But people would ask, can it be a meal replacement, or is it simply just a supplement?
It really is just a supplement. I mean, a meal replacement, as foundational nutrition is very important for human health. And of course, we don't include the macronutrients. We don't have vitamins. We don't have fiber and various other things that are very important for, human performance generally. So yeah, we would never recommend it as a meal replacement. I mean, it's more of, instances where individuals just can't properly absorb protein due to either a disease state or, some other issue like a bariatric sleeve, right? But yeah, we would never recommend it as a meal replacement.
Can it help with weight loss?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it's, the interesting thing is, and it goes to your earlier question about what's the proper amount of protein to take. A lot of people don't realize if you overtake protein, effectively that can convert to glucose, and glucose can obviously be stored as fat. So there is an optimal amount of protein to take. And the best guidance we always give individuals is trust your own instinct. I mean, we can give you all the advice in the world based on past history, but your body knows best what you need to take. So we typically tell individuals, don't take 3 to 4 packets a day, just take 1 to 2. And if there happens to be some period where maybe you're driving around, you don't have time for lunch, even though it's not a meal replacement, well, rather than going into a 7-Eleven or whatever else and buying yourself a bag of chips, something completely unhealthy, then take a packet.
Yeah.
So it's really up to individual needs. And I think, if you pay attention to your body, you optimize your health, really your body's going to tell you when you need to take protein.
Now, I would say another question that comes up often, and this is not specifically about frog fuel, but what is the ideal proportion of macros during a day, right? Some people do complete keto with no carbs. Other people will do, heavy starches or heavy carbs. What would you say is the best breakdown of macros in your experience being in this field for so long?
Um, for me, I believe the optimal diet is I'll typically do something like a protein, a fiber, a grain, and I tend to minimize carbohydrates, but that's really dependent upon my level of cardio activity. So if for during a week I'm running a lot more, then I'll increase my carbohydrate intake or starch intake. But I for me, I pay attention to the science, like most doctors' advice, which is eat a very balanced and well-rounded diet. Don't eat red meat all the time, maybe 2 to 3 times a week. Definitely alter your protein sources to things like fish and chicken and stuff like that. But vegetables, fruits are very important. And what I don't do is I don't typically supplement carbohydrates. So I try to stay away from things like bread all the time. I don't eat things like spaghetti or Italian food a lot. It's primarily protein, grain, fiber, and something that's high in vitamins and nutrients.
Yeah, I mean, I think people go crazy with these diets and they block out carbs or they block out fats. And at the end of the day, I think moderation is best. And I
Mhm.
agree, limiting, especially the processed foods,
Yeah.
really limit those tremendously, limit the carbs, high on the protein, and then the fat just reasonable. Um, give us an ideal example of how frog fuel should be used in someone's normal day, right? Someone might ask you, morning, afternoon, before bedtime, before a workout, after a workout. In your opinion, how should frog fuel be integrated into someone's normal routine?
Yeah, there's a couple examples I'll give you. We do have a number of individuals who really like to take frog fuel before going to bed, because unlike a traditional collagen supplement, our product contains all the essential, non-essential, and conditionally essential amino acids, and that's very important. I mean, because a lot of companies are jumping on this collagen bandwagon without understanding the true science. And that's important because collagen naturally lacks certain amino acids, and one of those is tryptophan. So tryptophan obviously is a very important amino acid in terms of the hormones your body releases to get a proper sleep cycle. And so we have a lot of customers who love the product before going to sleep because they according to them it helps them sleep. They have a deeper sleep and more fulfilling sleep. Um, we typically don't recommend it immediately when you get up because the human body we deplete our vitamin C stores when we're sleeping, and vitamin C is really essential to help you synthesize collagen. So we'll typically say, okay, if you want to take it in the morning, eat a proper breakfast, or take your smoothie, whatever, and incorporate the frog fuel into it. So really, it's a lifestyle product once daily, and that could be, getting up in the morning or going to sleep. And then if you're undergoing some type of physical activity, we always recommend taking the frog fuel power protein immediately after that physical activity to speed that recovery. And we actually have on our website, we have a performance study that was done by another university, and coincidentally, they were studying endurance capacity and power output. But one of the findings that they found during the study is that our product helped people heal so quickly that there was no measurable scar tissue buildup, which is obviously very important for long-term use and long-term physical activity.
Now, you guys have three versions of frog fuel. Can you just very briefly go through what the three versions are?
Yeah, so it's really, if you think about it, we have two formulas. So power protein, which is just our protein, no carbohydrates, no sugars, anything like that, just straight protein. And then we have our ultra product, which is protein, carbohydrates, and then we add two amino acids that are specifically designed to increase endurance output or power output and endurance capacity. And both of those products are offered in an energized version. So 80 milligrams of caffeine. And, from the caffeine side, we don't use roasted coffee beans because during the roasting process of coffee, it creates a known carcinogen. And so we actually use green coffee beans as our source of caffeine and we only put enough caffeine in there to, well, I'll get into a little bit here. A lot of the reason why we use the caffeine is it's a metabolic enhancer. And what I mean by that is if typically somebody goes to a gym and works out, or they're doing something like CrossFit, or they're competing in a bicycle race or a marathon, most people do not take the time to properly warm up, to pre-run, to do whatever. And so one of the reasons why we added the caffeine is to increase the metabolic process, which increases, body temperature and various other things. And so for us, it was a way to help individuals shorten the warm-up process so they can perform at peak performance.
Now, when people are looking for supplements, and I went through this, there's so many options out there. It's almost kind of confusing. What should people who are looking to buy supplements, what are the factors that they should consider when they finally purchase that supplement?
I think the most important factor is absorption, personally, because a lot of companies don't talk about that, and there's a reason they don't talk about it, right? They try to glamorize the other aspects of their product, but the reality here is that it's a protein or type of protein is really irrelevant unless you can get that protein to the cellular level, right? That's when the product's actually usable. So when companies are making claims, especially under a supplement label, and they're disclaiming that under an FDA disclaimer, ask for research, right? Where have you actually truly used your product? Do you have a clinical backing? I mean, if the product's so good, then why are you not using it in a clinical setting? That's, because a lot of people try to disassociate recovery from healing, but it's really one and the same. I mean, recovery process is really soft tissue healing at the end of the day, which is no different than, a surgical process to some extent. So, if the product is high, one, where is a product manufactured? What are the quality standards? Is it manufactured here in the US or a foreign country? What is the absorption rate? I mean, have they done studies on performance, power output, recovery, and various other things? And so I guess to summarize it, what I'm saying is, do they have true science behind their product? Or are they just making claims that they can normally do under a FDA disclaimer?
And kind of dovetailing into that prior question, I guess would be, it's very impressive how you have succeeded in an ultra saturated competitive market. What do you think are the key factors that have allowed you and Opt2 Labs to come out on top when there's so many competitors in this market?
That's a great question. And I think a lot of that is, one is just being true to your brand. And I think the other thing is transparency. It's interesting you asked that, because for the first couple of years, it was very obvious we had a lot of competitors jumping on our social media channels, trying to, they call them internet trolls, trying to ask like half scientific questions to elicit a response that was a false response. We had, competitors posting pictures of pig ears, like we use pig ears for our collagen, which is completely, a lot of stuff like that we had to deal with, but we wanted to stay true to our brand. So we never blocked comments on anything we did. A lot of other competitors do. They won't allow commenting on ads or various other things. We stayed true, and we wanted to basically just expose those that were trying to put our brand down. And it was kind of interesting. About year 4, we had built up such a loyal customer base because our product really works, that we found that we never had to respond to any troll comments or false science out there. That as soon as somebody posted something up there that attacked our brand, about 100 of our customers would jump immediately. And, it's funny. A lot of our customers would take the time to actually create a meme like that depicted that individual that was trolling us. And it's so funny because you'd see all these comments come in, and then almost immediately that person that was trolling our channels would just start deleting all their comments because they were getting attacked. But, if you stay true to your brand, I think that true to your brand, and you back that brand quality, and you take care of your customer, those customers really become an extension of your brand. And, we don't do any super exciting marketing. I mean, really, I think the best marketing we have is our customers. I mean, our customers, a lot of our customers will say on one side of the coin that, oh my gosh, your protein's pretty expensive compared to this bulk protein I can buy. But on the same side of the coin, they would sit here and say, well, I bought 24 packets and I gave 8 of them away to people at the gym because I wanted to promote your product. So it's a very interesting dynamic. We have very passionate customers who love the product, which is awesome. But at the same time, if something ever happens, like they get a shipment late, or maybe a packet ended up leaking and covering all their other products, they would get so pissed about it. And it was an interesting dynamic for our customer support team, because you'd get this frantic customer that's really mad. And part of the training process, I'd say, listen, when you have very passionate customers, they're going to be that very vocal voice out there promoting your product. But at the same time, when they don't get their product, they're also going to be the most pissed off person in the world. So, just empathize with them. Understand that, those people that you're taking offense to, that you're making it personal and you're getting upset because they're yelling at you, they're not upset at you. They're upset because they can't get their product when they want to.
Yeah, I mean, they're also used to excellence.
Yeah,
that's what it is. You guys have created the bar. It's so high that when the bar goes down a tiny bit, yeah, people get pissed off, and that's a good problem to have. Wrapping up here, last question, because I know you're super busy, but you've come so far. What is on the horizon for you and Opt2 Labs?
Really, to be a global brand. So we want to be a leader in healthcare supplementation. That's very important for us, because we really, when you look at it, just a basic thing like wound management here in the United States, we have excellent wound management. But when you go to other foreign countries like Africa and stuff, treating wounds, or actually wounds are typically the number one cause of deaths in many foreign countries, because they're not doing proper wound management. So we're really trying to extend the brand to provide those benefits to other countries with less developed, healthcare. And we just want to be, we want to be a good company. We want to be an example for others. We want to have industry leading customer service. All too many times we hear people going, I'm tired of talking to that robot on the phone where I can't talk to a person and they never solve my problems and I have to push 50 buttons. So people love our customer service. The other thing is for us is really taking accountability where we make mistakes. And I have a really quick story. It was second year we were in business. We didn't have the money to buy our own equipment, and we were using a co-packer. And we produce our own collagen, and what we do is we ship it to them. They do the final mixing and packaging. Well, unbeknownst to us, they actually sourced, because they couldn't pay their bills, they sourced collagen from a company overseas. And we ended up getting this product that they shipped to us. It was all our money. It was a product that tasted horrible. We knew that it didn't have the clinical benefits, because all the clinical benefits we had tested with our own formulation. And we were stuck. We knew if we didn't accept that shipment, we wouldn't have product to sell for 3 to 4 months, and that would have put us out of business. But that's an example where we made the decision to suck it up. We didn't accept it. And in that process, we had to find another co-packer. So we didn't have product for 6 months. We literally almost went bankrupt. But for us, it was very important for us to maintain that accountability. We made the mistake. We had to accept it, and we had to ensure that we're continuing to make the best products out there.
I mean, it's clear talking to you that the reason why your company is so successful, number one, it's obviously a great product, but two is the leadership. Obviously, it goes top down, and I think your leadership skills, your vision, staying true to yourself, like you said, and sticking to what your goals were, which is to provide the best possible supplement. So for those, I'm just going to show the product. I'm a huge fan of this stuff, but for those people who don't know, this is Frog Fuel. It's awesome. I've been using it twice a day. It's a great product. I'm a huge fan. And anyway, super excited about what the future holds. I'm sure there'll be different versions coming out. And for anyone who hasn't tried it, it's an amazing product, whether or not it's pre-workout, post-workout, middle of the day. Big fan. So again, thanks so much, Alex, for joining us. It's a tremendous accomplishment where you've gone from, like you said, almost being bankrupt to now having one of the most successful supplements in the world.
Doctor, appreciate it, man. It's great talking to you.
Absolutely, man. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Have a great holiday.